saw things that you did want to emulate. So I think that's what it's really about.
Yeah.
I feel like even in our relationship, you know, as we continue with this podcast, you'll see that there's no way that we are perfect in any way.
At all.
We've
We're
made a
absolutely
lot of
not perfect.
mistakes when it comes to each other. We made a lot of mistakes when it came to communication, when it came to being stuck in our feelings.
Very
you
much
know,
so.
And this podcast is really to, you know, to create like a safe space for us to be open,
Right.
for us to get feedback from you guys,
Of
and
course.
for us to not just, like I said, encourage you guys, but to encourage ourselves, because we're still in the relationship.
Yeah, thank God.
And, you know, by the grace of God, we still have many, 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 many years and decades and, you know, to come. And, you know, every day it's, you know, like when it comes to marriage, I feel like every day is you committing to be here. You know what I'm saying? I feel like every day
Definitely.
is like a renewing, you know, to say, I choose to be here.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
because like, you know, the name of our podcast, Married Ever After, the reason why we chose that name is because, you know, growing up, I used to read a lot of like fairy tales, and, you know, at the end
Cinderella and
of,
all that other
yeah,
stuff.
at the end of the fairy tale, the princess always ends up with Prince Charming, and they lived happily ever after. But what the fairy tale doesn't tell you is what happens after that part, after they get married.
Right.
Do they have arguments?
We don't know.
Does her husband do chores? Is she expected to cook and clean all the time? Like, what is the dynamic of their relationship? Do they bump heads because they're two unique individuals
Very true.
coming from two separate
Perspectives.
two separate upbringings,
right.
two separate experiences? Do they clash? And the fairy tales never tell you that. They just make it seem like everything is rainbows and fairies, and they live
And
happily
unicorns.
ever after, and unicorns.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you about the arguments, the disagreements, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. They don't tell you about the marriage.
And that's
So-
the thing, you know, for me, I didn't grow up reading a lot of, you know, fairy tales and stuff like that. I was aware of them. You know, I grew up in a very strict household with my grandparents, and I was limited in the amount of things that I was able to learn from and pull from. What I was able to do at times is watch a lot of sitcoms and older shows that were in syndication from the 60s and 70s, and even like Leave It to Beaver. So you have this idea fundamentally of what you think a marriage should look like based on what you see on television. And the reality is it's not like that. And for us, you know, why I'm glad we chose the name Married Ever After is because once you do get married, once you do have that commitment of marriage, there is the after. And that looks different to everybody. Yeah, I grew up with my grandparents, and they were together literally. They were married for 50 years. And my grandfather passed away, I think, a week after that? Something of that nature. But they were together for a while. But with your family, you said that you saw a lot of things that you didn't like.
Yeah,
in your parents' marriage.
Yeah, my parents' marriage, I saw a lot of things that I did not want in my relationships when I grew up. You know, so for me, you know, back to why we chose the name Married Ever After is to show people that after the wedding is the marriage. And the marriage is something that you commit to daily. It's something that you know, when you say your vows that you're going to be with this person for the rest of your life, there will come times where you question that because you're like, you're two people bumping heads. And
Very
you're like,
much
can I deal with this? Is this something I really want to do for the rest of my life? But at the end of the day, it's a daily commitment to be there. It's a daily commitment to say, I choose you, even though I may not like you
at the moment.
in
And
the
that's
moment.
important. That's
you know,
absolutely
like
important.
in our relationship, we learn the difference between like and love.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
like I love you forever.
And I love you
know?
forever too.
But I may not like you all the time. And that's okay because we're two different individuals. I may not like certain things that you do.
Right.
I may not like certain things that you say or how you say it or whatever. But at the end of the day, you should always know without a shadow of a doubt that I love you. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
back to why we chose the name, I just feel like sometimes when it comes to marriage, people take it lightly sometimes.
I agree.
You know, people don't realize that you're not always going to like the person that you're with. Generally, overall, you should like the person that you're with. But I'm saying in
Absolutely.
every moment,
Right.
you may not always like what a person does. You may not like always what a person has to say. But if you choose to marry the person, I feel like when you get to that point of marriage, you should generally like the person as a whole. And obviously, you should love that person. And that person should know that when you say something that they don't like, right? Or when you do something that they may not like, right? They should always know that at the core, you love them.
And that, I'm glad you said that, because this goes back to a conversation we were having the other day, right? And I guess making a pop culture reference, Cardi B, right? She filed for divorce. And you and I have been on this journey for a long time. And one thing that I said was that it's hard, I wouldn't say marriage is hard and marriage isn't easy. It's a journey. And on that journey, because we are using ourselves, are two different people from two different backgrounds, two different cultures, a lot of two different things. But when you come together, if you don't deal with your own personal issues, they're going to show up in marriage. Absolutely, hands down, fundamentally. There's not this magic thing that happens when you get married and everything is poof and is gone. And you're just going to be all the way intimate and all the time intimate with your spouse. Yeah, that's great. And it does happen. But if you don't deal with your stuff, that stuff is going to show up in your relationship.
I feel like every relationship that you have is to grow you in some type of way, whether it's sibling relationships, parental relationship, grandparents,
Right.
cousins, friends, and even your intimate partner or your husband or wife. I feel like in marriage, what it does, because like you said, two different perspectives, what it does is like whatever your issues are before the marriage that you didn't handle, that you didn't deal with during your single time or whatever.
Right.
I feel like, oh, you're not in the frame.
Oh, my bad.
Our first time.
Yeah, bear with us.
I feel like whatever your whatever your issues are before you get married, when you get married, it's like intensified, because now you have somebody that's living with you, that you see every day for the most part, that you're with all the time for the most part, that will do certain things, not because they're trying to be mean or they're trying to be purposeful to upset you, but they're just some things that they may do that may provoke something in you that you did not deal with, So a lot of times I've come to realize, even in our own relationships, because in our relationship, we're going to be open here.
Very open and transparent here.
In our relationship, in the beginning of our relationship, I was very, very hard.
Yo, add some extra. Add some extra. A little bit more.
I was very hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was very rough. Okay. And that's because now looking back, I can see my younger self and I have compassion for her because she was very broken. She was very hurt. She had the weight of the world on her shoulders and she did not know how to communicate. She didn't have the verbiage. And not even just the verbiage, because I feel like even if I had the verbiage, I didn't want to deal with what communication can bring up.
If I may interject a little bit, you didn't have the verbiage. You didn't also have the tools, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think you were ready.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I wasn't ready to deal with what communication would bring up. I wasn't ready to deal with the ramifications of me communicating my feelings, me communicating the things I've been through, me communicating my heart, because I felt like, number one, reality, when you express your full self, right? Your emotions, your feelings, it makes you very, very vulnerable. And at that time, I was in self-protection mode. And when you're in self-protection mode, the last thing you can be is also vulnerable, because vulnerable means you have to open up yourself. Right?
Very true. Very
like
true.
when you open up your heart, you open up your feelings, it's really like you're naked before somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And in that moment, when I first met you, when we were like in the beginning of our relationship, I was not ready for that. I was not ready to be vulnerable because I've been in protective mode for so long because of my past experiences.
I
You know, I
understand.
felt like I had to protect myself. Number one, you know, we're in a new relationship. I don't really know you like that, you know. And even when I started to know you like that, I was still like,
You were questioning everything.
I don't know you like that. You know,
know,
I
you were really
questioned
questioning everything.
everything because I had serious trust issues, like serious trust issues.